Welcome dear students. Today we shall talk about the cultivation and utility of a fodder crop alfalfa. Alfalfa is known as Medicago sativa. It belongs to the family Leguminaceae, which is a perennial crop that could live years and years depending on the suitable climatic conditions. Even in dry conditions can live for up to 10 years. It has a high yield outcome and capacity for tolerance towards extreme environmental fluctuations. It is a most abundantly harvested legume, mainly as hay and silage, but also consumed fresh and desiccated for grazing and meals, respectively. Alfalfa is an important source of protein, estimated 15 to 22% crude protein, carbohydrates and crude fibers, as well as several other important vitamins such as A, B, C, E and K, and minerals such as calcium, phosphorus, copper and potassium, which are directly or indirectly vital for most of the livestock and dairy industries. Because of its high nutritional value and availability at a cheap cost, it could impart important vital nutrients to the economy, specifically in developing and underdeveloped countries like Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, Vietnam and Laos. This crop's worldwide cultivation area is about 30 million hectares with a total production of about 450 million tons. Major alfalfa producers are North and South America, Europe and Asia with a total production of around 41%, 23%, 25% and 8% respectively. The specificity of this crop to survive in extreme environments of hot summers and cold winters makes it a more tolerable and profitable crop. Because of its high organic matter digestibility, 55 to 77%, it is considered as the most valuable crop all over the world. Now let us talk about the domestication of alfalfa. Alfalfa was one of the earliest domesticated crops. From its origins as a deep-rooted, drought-resistant perennial legume growing wild on the steppes of Asia, alfalfa has spread throughout Asia, Europe, Australia, Northern Africa and North and South America. It is difficult to identify the first traces of alfalfa domestication. Different authors suggest that alfalfa was cultivated 9,000 years ago in some rare locations in its center of origin, that is, Near East to Central Asia. Sinskaya in 1950 suggested that its distribution spread throughout the Middle East by 1000 BC and from there to China and India. Domesticated alfalfa has two distinct centers of origin. Medicago sativa, purple-flowered alfalfa, originated near Iran in the Fertile Crescent, while Medicago falcata, yellow-flowered alfalfa, originated near modern-day Pakistan and Afghanistan. In these areas, alfalfa was likely used as a forage for livestock and the seed was also used in human diets. The oldest written reference to alfalfa is from Turkey in 1300 BC. It was important to the early Babylonian cultures as well as to the Persians, Greeks and Romans. As a valued feed for horses, alfalfa contributed to the might of military empires from the Mediterranean to China. The Spanish and Portuguese later spread alfalfa to the New World during the conquest of Mexico, Peru and Chile. Alfalfa became an important crop in the United States during the 19th century. Early attempts to introduce alfalfa into the eastern colonies were not successful, likely due to weather, acidic soil and plant diseases. It was not widely adopted in the United States until its introduction in the 1850s from South America into the sunny western states. Significant introduction of alfalfa were made into the United States Midwest in the late 1800s by a German farmer, Wendelin Grimm. Grimm brought seeds of a winter hardy alfalfa from Germany and planted it on his farm in Minnesota. Now let's talk about genetic resources and the main gene banks of alfalfa. Numerous gene banks in the world exist that concentrate on medicago, such as National Plant Germplasm System, United States of America, Australian Medicago Genetic Resource Center, Australia, ICARDA, Syria, Vavilov Institute of Russia, and many more. Genetic resources of perennial medicago species are maintained by many countries. Due to past exchanges of genetic materials among research institutes, accessions such as cultivars and land races are frequently maintained in several gene banks. Wild perennial species are generally only maintained by the institute that collected them. They are poorly represented or not represented in germplasm collections, especially those from the center of origin of the genus and from Asia. The diploid forms of Medicago sativa complex are also underrepresented in gene banks. In order to promote the use and rationalize the maintenance of plant genetic resource in Europe, the European Cooperative Program for Plant Genetic Resources was set up in 1980 and is now coordinated by Biodiversity International. Within ECPGR, a working group on forage species brings together 37 countries. This working group has set up central crop databases for several groups of forage grass and legume species. A part of these, CCDB, is centralized in the UNESCO database, a web-based catalog which automatically receives the national inventories of the gene banks from 42 European countries. The ECPGR Central Crop Database for perennial medicago species reference 7,874 samples, a third of which are from Russian Federation. These are maintained over by 25 European national gene banks. Referenced accessions include cultivars, that is 1,920 accessions, land races, about 1,430 accessions, wild and feral populations, about 769 accessions, and breeding materials containing 1,260 accessions. Altogether, these accessions represent the diversity originating from all parts of Europe. Information about the ECPGR Central Crop Database for perennial medicago species can be obtained from this database. Alfalfa variety development, agronomists and plant breeders have made great improvements in alfalfa productivity, persistence, and nutritional value over time. Early variety development focused on increasing winter hardiness and resistance to diseases, insects, and nematodes. In the 2000s, application of genetic engineering technology to alfalfa resulted in development of herbicide-tolerant, Roundup-ready alfalfa to facilitate weed control, and reduced lignin alfalfas with higher nutritive value to livestock, known as forage quality. Breeding and agronomic research continues to focus on traits, growing practices to expand alfalfa's usefulness for livestock, human food, and industrial purposes. In the recent past, varieties of alfalfa have been developed with new or improved traits such as winter hardiness, resistance to bacterial wilt, nematodes and diseases, grazing tolerance, herbicide tolerance, aphanomyces resistance, salt tolerance, and reduced lignin for improved digestibility. Now students, let us talk about the uses of alfalfa. Alfalfa is a rich source of healthy nutrients and has countless benefits for livestock and humans. Alfalfa as a fodder crop. It is one of the top feed fodders in the world because of its outstanding nutritional profile, which includes high amounts of crude protein, secondary metabolites, as well as macro and micro minerals. According to Global Lucerne Seed Market, America, Australia, and Spain were the top exporters of alfalfa seeds, followed by Canada, Italy, France, Netherlands, Romania, Germany, and South Africa in 2021. The positive and negative growth relationships of the top 10 exporters for the year 2018 to 2021 suggest that these countries are working on developing the new technologies for improved alfalfa production. Several countries grow alfalfa in large quantities, but their export value is quite low due to larger domestic consumption. Notably, China and Russia, which have 0.08 and 0.06% export values respectively. Now, alfalfa as a source of essential nutrients for humans. Alfalfa is high in nutrients that aid in bodily growth and development. Its leaves have around 439 kilocalories per 100 grams of energy, which is mostly made up of proteins, carbohydrates, lipids, and other nutrients. Proteins are usually considered as high quality meals for health reasons, and many nutritionists believe that alfalfa proteins can help a man's health since they contain more protein than any other proteinaceous foods like beef, chicken, egg, and milk. Furthermore, it contains a number of key amino acids, 8 of which are essential, and it meets the amino acid requirements of adults as suggested by the United Nations FAO. It also includes vital vitamins including vitamin A and C, as well as variety of minerals like zinc, iron, manganese, calcium, and molybdenum. Overall, it contains a vast quantity of energy that may meet a body's energy requirements to greater extent, and it has the potential to play key part in socio-economic civilizations due to its low cost. Including minor crops such as alfalfa in modern cropping systems is one possible way to diversify food supplies, increase nutritional security, and lessen the impact of unfavorable weather patterns. Alfalfa sprouts looks just like moong sprouts, grown for 3 to 4 days, and is made from alfalfa seeds, which are known as rajko in Hindi. However, because alfalfa sprouts have some link to the food poisoning, there is still controversy regarding the daily consumption that is safe for human health due to the lack of studies on humans. Edible alfalfa leaf proteins was administered to people for the first time in 1962, and the results showed that its biological value was comparable to milk. It also contains a number of amino acids that are similar to those found in chicken and animal proteins. Not only did children's height and weight increase, but their blood quality also improved significantly, assisting anemic patients in overcoming low hemoglobin levels. Another study found that EALP is easy to digest and can promote development if it is included in sufficient quantities in regular meals. EALP contains 1667.4 kilojoules of heat, 60 grams of protein, 50 milligrams of iron, 0.8 milligrams of calcium, and 1.4 micrograms of carotene per 100 grams. Another study found that EALP is easy to digest and can promote development if it is included in sufficient quantities in regular meals. To benefit from this nutrient-rich plant, humans can also take its sprouts directly in salads, soups, and casseroles, as well as its seeds, dried leaves as tea, concentrates as powder, pills, capsules, or liquid extracts as drinks. As a result, this might be the most cost-effective energy source available to lower socio-economic societies. Alfalfa is a plant that may be used to treat a variety of health issues. It has long been utilized in homeopathic and Ayurveda remedies to treat digestive and nervous system diseases. It is good for cholesterol control, which is a leading problem these days and makes the body susceptible to various disorders. The recommended treatment for this problem is to eat cooked alfalfa seeds 3 times a day, each dosage being 40 grams. Colest ATM, an American medication that comprises Medicago sativa extract and citric acid in concentrations of 900 to 100 milligram, acts well against excessive cholesterol by neutralizing cholesterol in the stomach before reaching the liver. Leaf protein extracts have anti-cancer properties due to the presence of carotene, as well as function in slowing down the aging process and other bone-related disorders such as rheumatoid arthritis and osteoarthritis. After going through a deodorization procedure, the supernatant obtained during the protein extraction process might be a good source of nutritious beverages with high nutritional value for elderly folks. It can also help those with renal problems to maintain a steady flow of urine. It also helps with emphysema, cardiovascular and senile cataracts, asthma, stomach aches, and bleeding problems. Other uses include its role in hormonal misbalances, menopause-related symptoms, and infertility-related issues in females. Most importantly, it can also reduce blood glucose level in diabetic patients, which is a genetically transferred chronic disease and is not curable yet. Hence, alfalfa is also getting attention as an emerging nutraceutical crop which has multiple benefits like buckwheat and amaranth. Now, let's talk about the role of alfalfa in nitrogen fixation. Alfalfa roots develop well in the second to third year of growth, yielding 80,120 quintals of root biomass per hectare, returning nitrogen, potassium, phosphorus, and other associated components in the form of manure and replacing 4,060 tons of manure application in the soil. In comparison to soybean and corn, alfalfa roots can reach up to depth of 16 to 20 feet in the soil, but corn and soybean roots can only reach a depth of 6 feet and are primarily concentrated in the top layer of the soil. It not only fixes nitrogen in the soil, but also makes nitrogen accessible to the plants planted after alfalfa in a crop rotation system like corn. The association between alfalfa and Cynorhizobium meliloti is thought to be the most effective association for nitrogen fixation in the soil. Its deep and powerful root structure aids nitrogen fixation more than any other leguminous crop such as soybean. The ability of soybean to fix nitrogen is well known. However, the total nitrogen fixed in Australia was between 75 to 109 kgs per hectare per year, which is much lower than that of alfalfa. In one study, it was found that alfalfa may fix up to 4,650 kg of nitrogen per hectare each year. The reported biological nitrogen fixation ranged from 70 to 250 kg nitrogen in North America, 152 kg nitrogen for the Mississippi River Basin, 93 to 258 kg nitrogen for eastern Canada, 174 to 466 kg nitrogen for western Canada, 120 to 250 kg nitrogen for Minnesota, and 200 to 650 kg nitrogen in Argentina. This suggests that the stated nitrogen fixation rates varies with region. Now let's talk about the role of alfalfa in soil erosion control. Soil erosion is a displacement of the uppermost layer of the soil. It increases the risk of vital nutrients to run off and decrease the water quality and agricultural productivity that ultimately results in ecological and economic losses in semi-arid regions. That is a vivacious element of terrestrial ecosystems. For sustainable agriculture, especially in hilly areas, soil conservation management is a crucial factor, and cover crops are best solutions for soil preservation. Cultivation of cover crops, precisely alfalfa, in comparison to bare land can reduce soil erosion by up to 98%. It also helps in providing organic matter to the soil by triggering soil microorganisms activity. A study reveals that alfalfa can control soil erosion to a higher extent when planted along with potato and maize as an intercrop in the same environmental conditions due to its highly penetrating and wide-ranging root system that holds soil particles together. Another study explains that continuous production of corn when planted alone gives around 7.4 tons per acre of soil loss, while crop rotation of corn along with oat and alfalfa lessens this loss to approximately 2 tons per acre. It also contributes to better soil health by boosting soil fertility and preserving soil structure. It also is reported that continuous cultivation of alfalfa in the same place can cause extreme water losses. Alfalfa gives maximum production in 8th to 9th year and afterwards started to decline due to soil water depletion in the western Loess Plateau. Considering a precipitation rate of about 600 millimeters in certain area, alfalfa should not grow in the same place for more than 8 consecutive years to withstand soil water content. Now let us talk about the uses of alfalfa in water purification. The residues of wastewater after removing settled solids from it are called sludge. This can be achieved by chemical precipitation or a simple sedimentation process. A study revealed that this grass can also grow well in sandy loam soil up to concentration of 75% sludge water without being negatively affected. Although pure sludge water could be dangerous for plants and animals both, this clearly exhibits that it can grow equally well in pure water and sludge water. This quality can lessen the clean water needs for the irrigation, which is highly in demand in this water shortage time period. Many societies in the agricultural areas are dependent on well water and face the problems of excessive nitrate, the soluble form of nitrogen which is normally used as fertilizer in the drinking water supplies. The presence of excessive nitrate in drinking water can cause blue baby syndrome, that is reduced blood oxygenation, and other health related issues. Societies whose groundwater is polluted with nitrate may have to pay lots of money for filtration equipment to purify their drinking water. This money could be saved if nearby farmers reduce nitrogen loss by growing alfalfa in their fields. It is because alfalfa delivers valuable provisions in maintaining groundwater nitrate levels, since it upholds living roots all over the year by fixing nitrogen. It not only minimizes the need of nitrogen fertilizer, but also takes up surplus soil nitrate from the groundwater, predominantly in the late fall and early spring. In a case study in California, mobile soil nitrate levels observed was 55 to 60% lower in alfalfa growing fields than corn growing fields, especially when noticed in late fall. So, growing of alfalfa near excessive nitrogen mixed water bodies could save lives of many people who are at a risk to get diseases like blue baby syndrome. Now, let us talk about the ecological services of alfalfa. First, alfalfa attracts pollinating insects. Alfalfa is a cross-pollinated crop, and its optimal seed production depends on the pollinator's activity. Alfalfa flowers also get pollinated by different kinds of visiting bees for sexual contact. The most common pollinators of alfalfa are honeybees, that is, Apis mellifera, leaf cutter bees, Megachile rotundata, bumblebees, Bombus terrestris, and species of alkali bees, that is, Nomia melanderi and Rhophytoides canis. The alfalfa leaf cutter bee, which is intensively encouraged in and around the alfalfa fields in USA and is traded commercially for about 800 million insects annually, is the most important pollinator of alfalfa seeds in North America. In China, the primary and most widely used pollinators of alfalfa are honeybees. However, the bumblebees are the more efficient ones than honeybees in the pollen dispersal of alfalfa for wind pollination. Alfalfa is also a home for most of the beneficial insects to live on, hence called as insectary. Alfalfa fields alone give 1/3 of the overall honey achieved from United States. Although most of the insects are beneficial for many other plants as well as alfalfa, but still it helps some pests to grow, which is not healthy for those crops which are directly consumed by livestock. Second, alfalfa reduces weed production. Some alfalfa varieties positively control growing weeds in the paddy fields. In a study, two species of alfalfa, Yuba and Raisin, were used along with bran and hull in a paddy field for weed control. Both the varieties showed incredibly higher results, 95.2% and 90.5% respectively. On the other hand, hull and bran could control only 51.7 and 25.1% respectively. Raisin not only controls the weed production within the field, also it increases the paddy yield up to 80.6%, which was 9.6% higher than the herbicide treatment. Planting alfalfa with oat, that is Avena sativa, as an intercrop can significantly control weed production in the field. It shows that seed predation rate was maximum in alfalfa fields because of maximum activity of birds in the field. More visitors, more chances of seeds to be lost, and this seed loss activity by predators control the weed production in the alfalfa fields more than soybean, corn, and small grains. Third, alfalfa as stress-tolerant species. Worldwide, salinity affects approximately 800 million hectares of irrigated land and a major limiting factor in agricultural productivity. Higher salt levels cause iron toxicity, primarily sodium hyperosmotic stress and some derived stresses such as oxidative damage. Unlike most high value crops, alfalfa is reasonably a salt tolerant crop with high commercial value and relatively more fit for yield purposes with low quality water. In a study, a salinity tolerant cultivar, Halo, shows less sodium concentration in shoots as compared to roots, which indicates that this plant restricts the sodium translocation from roots to shoots by controlling salinity effects. Ecologically, alfalfa can live in arid and semi-arid regions with equitable tolerance to water deficit. Alfalfa breeding species are considered as drought and salinity tolerant because they consume less water when compared to other leguminous crops like clover, peas, and soybean. Alfalfa grows up to 3 feet in height, and its extensively strong root system spread widely to several meters by accessing water at longer distances. Its root length commonly extends up to 16 feet. It also has a high range of adaptability towards extreme temperature fluctuations from extreme cold plains to high mountainous valleys, from temperate agricultural land to intense hot deserts. Under drought, many of alfalfa species shows some anatomical adaptations such as leaf and ground tissue thickness and particularly leaf sclerenchyma thickness, which is mainly responsible for moisture loss, and physiological modifications such as increased carotenoids and soluble sugars, making it resistant towards water shortages. Finally, alfalfa is a valuable food and feed crop for both humans and animals. In many countries throughout the world, it is directly consumed by people due to its extensive nutraceutical property, while in some it is still considered as fodder. The rising desire for nutritious diets as well as improved public awareness has led to new utility for many crops such as alfalfa. So dear students, it was all about today's lecture regarding the cultivation importance of alfalfa. Hope you have understood it well. See you next time with a new topic. Till then, take care and goodbye.